All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the LineTime Sports UFC show. This is your friend LineTime Rick at LineTime Rick on X, joined as always by LineTime Hammer at LineTime Hammer on X. Wherever you're listening, thank you. Just know that we are on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music. If you'd like to watch us on YouTube, we're there as well. Make sure to follow LineTime Sports at LineTime Sports on Twitter, X, whatever you prefer, TikTok, Instagram, whatever your preferred social media is. Hammer, my friend, another new week. How you doing?
Pretty good. A little tired, but not too much to complain about. How about yourself?
Yeah, man. I mean, besides this god awful card, I'm doing all right. That's something that just before we even get into it, I was gonna bring up. We're gonna do things a little bit different here this week, just layout wise. We're gonna talk about a few fights. Not many though. Usually we'll try to do like maybe the whole entire main card and a couple of prelims, especially on these fight night kind of cards. But this week we're gonna do everybody a favor and not bore everybody to death and talk about these terrible fights. We're gonna talk about 3, 4 of them. We'll mention a couple other ones, and then we'll go from there. We have a different little segment headed and directed by our good friend Adam and Oscar that we're gonna get into. So I guess we'll just start with this card. It's UFC Vegas 85 at the Apex again. Funny enough, the one thing I did want to say is I Charles Johnson, who's I think the second to last prelim. I saw him on an interview this week, and he was just talking his shit about the prelim or the Apex. Sorry, and just real quick, Hammer. I wanted to get your insight. What are your thoughts on the Apex just in general? I mean, I know a lot of fighters are kind of it had to be a thing during COVID, of course. It was kinda like their little sanctuary away from everywhere where they can get away with it with testing and all that, but, like, I know a lot of fighters would just so much rather fight in front of a crowd, but then you come back to cards like this, and I wouldn't pay $20 to go watch this. Like, it's terrible. So, like, is the Apex alright? Like, do you think that, like I know that the fighters just in general, they would rather not fight at the Apex, but, I mean, you would think that for cards like this, you kinda gotta do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you brought up well, so like the Apex wasn't a thing for fight nights before COVID, right? Like that all started because of COVID, if
Yeah, I
I'm
think it
not
was
mistaken.
exclusively for,
Yeah,
Ultimate Fighter, kinda
because
like a performance center.
I can't think of any fights before COVID that they ever had at the Apex. So it's interesting. Like you said, a lot of fighters kind of talk shit about it. They want fans there. But on the other hand, man, like fighting's a very nerve racking thing, and I know like obviously nerves are part of it, but I don't know, like for some people, it's more kind of like a like it's still a fight, obviously, but it's more of like a sparring like the surroundings of like the sparring or like they're in the gym. So I don't know. I feel like it can help some fighters. Some fighters come alive with the crowd, man. They feed off that energy. So I feel like it's just honestly about the fighter in general, his preferences. As a fan, I don't really love it, but there is some positives to it, like, you can hear the shots land a lot better, especially for live betting. You can hear a lot of coaching going on, hear what the coaches are saying, so it's definitely kind of it's weird to me that they're still doing it, but for cards like this, it kinda makes sense. If
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
That's where I'm coming off at is like, I we know that a lot of the fighters don't prefer it, but, uh, like I was saying earlier, and like you said, the cards like this, it'd be hard to charge admission on this, and just in general, another thing I was gonna say is, like, we're gonna be getting a couple of these kinda cards where it's, like, very lackluster, and that's up until 300.
mhm.
Us as a fan base, we've been clamoring so much for, stack 300, and then they even stack 299, so and that was a bit of a petty move. I think that's a night that Francis Ngannou's gonna box Anthony Joshua, so, like, you knew Dana was
Makes
gonna
sense,
stack that card up.
yeah.
So, when we as fans call for, like, these big events to be truly, like, big events, a lot of those cards that could be headlining fight nights up until 300 are gonna be put on the early prelims of 300, so we're just gonna have to kinda bite the bullet on this and, suffer through these cards, and speaking of it, I guess we'll just start and kinda break down the couple of these fights that we have broken down. We'll go into the main event. It's between the number 8 ranked Roman Dolidze, and he's fighting the number 11th ranked Nasruddin Imavov. Dolidze is coming in at a plus 124 underdog, Imavov at a minus 160 favorite. I think it was the 2 weeks ago, it would be when we were talking about those fights. We were saying how, like, when a lower ranked opponent is a favorite. It's pretty rare to see that lower rank. Like in this situation, we have the number 11 Nasruddin Imavov, and he's fighting the number 8 Roman Dolidze, and the number 11 guy is a favorite. I feel like it's pretty common that we see that number 11 guy or the lower ranked guy beat the higher ranked opponent. It just I don't know the exact stat on it, but, like, I think it was with, Mosvar, Evliov and, Arnold Allen on 297.
Yep.
We were saying the lower ranked guy, they usually win, so I think that this is another one of those scenarios. We got Talize, who's 12-2 in his career, 6-2 in the UFC. He's coming off of that unanimous decision loss to Marvin Vettori. Before that, he had a 4-fight win streak going, and his most recent in that was a knockout win over Jack Hermanson. Then you got Imavov, who's 12-4 in the UFC, one no contest, or 12-4 career with a no contest, 4-2 in the UFC. He's coming off the no contest against Chris Curtis. It was that accidental headbutt, which again, during 297, we talked about it because Chris Curtis fought on 297. And before that, it was I think, decision. Yeah, decision loss to Sean Strickland for Imavov. So, like I said, Imavov's a slight favorite in this one, minus 160. Uh, I do think that he's going to be able to win this fight. Roman Dolidze, he was riding a bit of a hot streak before that loss to Marvin Vettori, but then in that fight against Vettori, it was kind of just like an outclassing kind of thing where it's like, okay, when he gets up to this higher level competition, does he really have what it takes? And it's crazy because I mean, Imavov, he hasn't really beat any of those top guys yet, but, like, in that Chris Curtis fight, he was absolutely outclassing him before the accidental headbutt and the no contest had to happen. But, yeah, he lost to Sean Strickland, but, like, I mean, Sean Strickland was the champion. We saw that, and he had a very close fight with Dricus Du Plessis, who took his belt. So it's like that is the top of the line, and Imavov, of course, he lost that fight, but I mean, he's fought top of the line guys. And Roman, obviously, the biggest competition he's fought is Vettori, and I mean, he looked completely outclassed. It looked like he didn't really have much of a shot in that one. So I do think that Imavov is decent value here at minus 160. I think that he's definitely somebody that I would consider throwing in a parlay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a striker versus striker matchup. Deliza had a nice little win streak. With that 4-fight win streak, before the last loss, a lot of those guys were lower level, but he did have a KO win over Jack Hermanson, who's obviously not the best striker, but he's been at the top end of that division for a while now. That's definitely very good win for him. I don't know. Delize definitely has the power advantage. Imanov's chin is pretty decent. So I don't know. I think Imanov can probably control the distance pretty well in this fight. I think that what Vittori did well against Dolidze was I think he kicked that front leg a lot, and I think that slowed him down. I think Imanov's probably gonna try to implement that same kind of game plan. Try to take some sting out of his punches that way. Um, Value wise, to be honest, I don't think really like anything to be completely honest. Like I think Umanov probably wins, but at minus 160, um, I don't love him. On the flip side, Delize, what is he like plus 120 something?
He's plus 124. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't excite me either. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I just think this is one probably don't bet. Admin Oscar, do you have the over rounds on this one? Sorry to put you on the spot. I was just didn't get to look at that, and I was kind of interested to see what it would be.
His so it's over 2.5, minus 166, and then the under is plus 130.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this could end before that, so I don't hate the under. To be honest, plus 130, not bad. I'm probably not going to bet it, but if I were to bet something in this fight, I'd probably bet that. But that's all I have on this one.
Yeah, this is lining up, like I said, like the card in general, this fight, it's just a lot of stuff where it almost feels forced to take a lot of the stuff. I haven't fallen in love with very much when doing my research. Although in this next fight, I'll have my best bet, but honestly, just face value, there's not much. Like I said, I wouldn't hate throwing Imavov in a parlay, maybe like a two-legger with somebody else. Like, I think I told the Hammer I didn't mind Imavov with Natalia Silva, who's we'll get into. She's down here a little bit, but that will get you straight to like plus 100. So it's one of those. Is the risk worth the reward? Maybe, maybe not. Again, a lot of the stuff on this card just feels a little forced in my opinion, but we'll get into this next fight. And like I said, it has my favorite bet of the week. It's a lightweight bout. It's between the number 13th ranked Hinata Moicano, and he's fighting number 15th ranked Drew Dober. Moicano's coming in at a minus 192 favorite, and Drew Dober's a plus 148 dog. Moicano, 17-5-1 in his career, 9-5 in the UFC. He's coming off of that round one rear naked choke win over Brad Riddell. Fight before that, it was a unanimous decision loss for Rafael dos Anjos, and that's probably the maybe the worst we've seen Moicano look in his career. Even he looked again pretty outclassed by dos Anjos. And then you got Drew Dober, who's 17-12 in his career, 13-8 in the UFC. So he's a bit of a veteran. He's coming off of that round one TKO over Ricky Glenn. And if you remember, we talked about that one. And it turned out that he had just had a child before that fight. And so, the dad strength, that's another passion play of mine. If you know that they had a child before their last fight, they're probably going to win because, why not? And then the fight before that one was a round one TKO loss to Matt Frevola. That was one of the first times we've really seen Drew Dober's chin give out. Usually his fight style is give one, take one, stand in the pocket. It's not afraid to take a shot to give one. That's why, like I said, my favorite pick of the week, Drew Dober money line plus 148. I think there's a lot of value there. Um, I like Moicano, and I was telling Hammer, I think that if Moicano can get this fight to the ground, then that doesn't spell great news for Drew Dober, but he has decent enough takedown defense where I think that and Moicano, honestly, he's not bad standing up. He doesn't mind standing up. I don't think he'll want to stand up with Dober. That's why I think that Dober has a lot of value because if it does end up on the feet, I have to favor Dober. We've seen Moicano's chin give out time and time again. He's
Yeah.
susceptible to taking damage. Drew Dober, the one time we've seen his chin give out was in that Favola fight, and that is the rarity. That's kind of the one that sticks out rather than like it's not like Drew Dober gets knocked out a lot. It's like that was the one time he got knocked out, and like we say in this podcast too, it's kind of hard for us to bet on these guys coming off of a fight where they got knocked out for like maybe the first time in a long time or even the first time in their career. But he came back and he fought Ricky Glenn and it looked, I mean, his chin looked the same as it always has before that Favola fight. So I'm decently confident in Drew Dober here. I think that the value at a close to plus 150, I think it's definitely there. So yeah, that's going to be my pick of the week.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, Dober, I thought that was the first time he's ever been KO'd in his career. I'm just looking through because I wanted to fact check myself. He's been KO'd once before that, and it was in 2011.
Man. Like he's got an iron chin, man.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, when Drew Dober loses, it's either a decision or he gets submitted. Moicano definitely has some submission ability, but it's really not what he's known for. He's just kind of, I think he's just a pretty well-rounded fighter. He does primarily like to keep it on the feet, though. I like Dover in this matchup, especially for the odds. But like you said, Dover isn't the best on the ground, so if Moicano is able to get it there, could be bad news for him. But and I think that should be in Moicano's game plan to try to get it to the ground. But I don't know. It's gonna be tough. Like Dover doesn't have horrible takedown defense, and Moicano doesn't have amazing wrestling. So yeah, it'll be a good fight. I think Dover probably has to put him out to win this fight, but I think he can. I think he can. Like he could win a decision. But we'll see. Moicano has taken a lot of damage too. Like in that Des Anjos fight, man. I can't remember if that went 5 rounds or not.
Yeah, it did. And he
But
got
dude,
jacked up.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but on the other side, Dober was KO'd recently. Like you said, he had that fight against Ricky Glenn right before, but he took some time off, got that win. So I'm not. I don't hate that. Like I think his chin's obviously still really good. Matt Favola hits pretty hard. Yeah, I like the over in this matchup for sure at the value of plus 140. I think it's going to be a really good fight for the fans. Very exciting fight. I just think Dover's just got to stay upright here and he'll do good. Moicano's length might give him a little bit of trouble, but Dover's does a pretty good job of throwing combos and getting inside on those taller, rangier fighters. So I think he can do it here again. I'm excited for this one. I would agree with you. I like Drew Dover for the value.
Yeah, and this is probably the most exciting fight on the card. I'd said that before we got in here. I do think that like although it isn't the main event, this is probably the one that's going to be the most fun for the fans. And one other thing that was kind of side of me with Drew Dober and against Moicano is Moicano hasn't fought in over a year at this point.
Mhm.
So maybe there's a little bit of ring rust there. Drew Dober likes to stay active, even with that knockout. I think he fought two, maybe three times last year. So he's a guy that stays in there. Again, he was doing an interview today and he compared himself to the new school Cowboy Cerrone, and he might not fight that level of competition that Cerrone was fighting because Cerrone was always up there in the top 10 fighting those guys. But um, Drew Dober really is kind of turning into the anytime, anywhere, anybody.
Yeah.
He'll show up and he'll fight him. So I like that. I like Dober in this one. I do think that he has the power to put out Moicano, and I think that Moicano has a little bit of that susceptible chin that it adds up to where it could be a Drew Dober finish. So, like I said, it's going to be my bet of the week, plus 148. We'll get on to this next fight. We got a welterweight match. It's Randy Brown, and he's fighting Muslim Salikov. Randy Brown's coming in at a minus 250 favorite. Salikov plus 190 underdog. Um, One thing about Randy Brown is he's very, very big for this division. He's 6'3", so that's real big. 6'3", 170. Brown, he's 17-5 in his career, 11-5 in the UFC. He's coming off of that unanimous decision win over Wellington Turman, our old friend, the Terminator. Fight before that, he had a round one rear naked choke loss to Jack Della Maddalena. Then you got Salikov, 19-4 in his career, 6-3 in the UFC. He's coming off of a unanimous decision loss to Nicholas Dalby. And the fight before that was a third round TKO over Andre Fiallo. So, I mean, I'm gonna go with Randy Brown here. He's a minus 250 favorite for a reason. Like I said, he's 6'3". He's got the size on Muslim Salikov. It's gonna be a boxer versus a boxer, a fighter, a stand up versus a stand up. Um, I don't see this one really getting to the ground, and if it does, it'll probably be Muslim initiating it. But I think that both of these guys probably prefer to keep it on the feet. Yeah, I don't know how a ton to say on this, except I'd suspect Randy Brown gets it done. I don't know inside or outside the distance. I think it's probably going to be Randy Brown by decision, but I mean, minus 250, is it worth it? Probably not. I'm not that confident in him, but I do think he's going to win.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Salikov's Dagestani, but he never wrestles in his fights. Most of his losses in his career come by way of submission. So it's usually I don't see that with these Dagestani fighters. So yeah, I think Randy Brown's pretty solid. I wouldn't say he has like a bad chin or anything, but I mean he's been knocked out before. He does kind of use that style of keeping his hands down and a lot of head movement, so that can kind of bite him. But yeah, he's gonna have a pretty big reach advantage in this fight. One thing Salikov, like the main weapon Salikov uses, he has a really good spinning heel kick that he uses to the body and to the head. I've seen him knock out multiple people to the body with that kick. That's his main weapon he uses. His stand-up's not horrible, but it's not great. I think Randy Brown has a pretty big speed advantage in this fight. So yeah, I like him, but not at minus 260. Wouldn't advise like throwing him in a parlay. Like he probably wins the fight, but it's pretty crazy to see him at a plus or minus 260 here, in my opinion. Even though Salikov isn't all that great, I still think that's pretty hefty line for him. But yeah, I mean he's probably gonna have to land that spinning heel kick to the body or the head to really hurt Randy Brown in this matchup and get him off his game. I think if not, Randy Brown's probably just gonna pick him apart. Just kind of use his reach to keep him at bay and land the jab a lot. I don't think this will be all that much of an exciting fight, but it will stay on the feet. I don't think either of these fighters are going to the ground.
Yeah, you might see Randy Brown kinda hurt Muslim a little bit, and maybe he, "Oh, you're a wrestler now," kinda shot, but I like you said, I doubt it. I think that it's gonna stay on the feet, and I think that Randy Brown's gonna win. It's another one of those fights where it's 2 of these, like, mid-tier fighters. Neither of them are necessarily that great. Neither of them have really necessarily fought higher level guys. That's kinda, put those 2 guys against each other and see which one's better, and, if the line is indicative of anything, like I said, Randy Brown -250, he should win this fight. It'll probably be by some or by decision. Uh, yeah, I guess we'll get on to this next fight. Well, it's a women's flyweight. We got the number 7th ranked Viviana Ruhau, and she's fighting the number 9 ranked Natalia Silva. This is another one of those situations where the lower ranked fighter is a massive favorite. Natalia Silva is a -350 favorite, and Ruhau's a +255 dog. And like I said, it's number 9 versus number 7, and the number 9 fighter is a -350. We got a Ruhau. She's 12-5 in her career, 6-4 in the UFC. She's coming off a unanimous decision win over Jennifer Maia. Before that, she had 2 decision losses against Amanda Ribas and Alexa Grasso. So those are decent level competition, but she lost both those fights, like I said. And then you got Natalia Silva, who's one of the better prospects in the women's division right now. She's 16-5-1 in her career, 4-0 in the UFC. She's on a 10-fight win streak, her most recent being a unanimous decision win over Andrea Lee. Um, Natalia Silva, she's 27. She's got a good mix of both stand up and ground game. I don't really see a world where she loses this fight. I'd be very comfortable throwing in a parlay at -350. I don't know what necessarily I'd throw her in with. Like I said earlier, maybe Imavov that gets you to plus 100. Um, Imavov scares me a lot more than Natalia Silva does. Again, I don't really see a world where Viviana Ruha wins this fight. Of course, anything could happen in fighting, but I think that the Natalia Silva would be justified for being an even bigger favorite than a -350. It probably goes the distance, but I don't know. I mean, we see Viviane Ruha get to go the distance a lot, but I think the 2 wins before Andrea Lee for Natalia Silva were finishes. So maybe she finishes her. Like I said, I'd probably, if anything, just throw her money line in a parlay with something.
Yeah, Silva's pretty well rounded, man. Like you said, those 2 wins, yeah, they came by KO and TKO, I believe, and then you referenced her record being 16-5-1, and it doesn't sound like the best record, but I think you got to note that 3 of those losses came in her first 4 professional fights. So she's obviously improved a lot. She has a lot of submission wins outside the UFC. Obviously, she got those last two wins with her hands. So yeah, I mean, she's just pretty dangerous. Vivian Arujau has been in the UFC for a decent while now. She's not bad. I think the main problem I have with her is her output just isn't there in a lot of fights. If you look at her losses, she loses a lot of decisions. She just doesn't really do much. She has a little bit of power, but if she can't land that power shot, she kind of just gets tagged up. And I kind of see this fight being the same. I don't think she has enough to throw Silva off her game. I think Silva is better everywhere, and I think whatever she wants to do in this fight, she's going to be able to, which isn't saying much because she's a -350. But like you said, I would be comfortable throwing her in a parlay, and I usually don't say that about -300 favorites because it's MMA, anything can happen. But I just don't see a way she loses. Like, obviously, there's a way she can lose, but I just don't see it happening in this one.
Yeah, then I had the same thought. It's like, usually I'd advise against throwing these -350s in a parlay because it really stings when you lose on that leg. But I mean, it's really hard to imagine her losing this fight. I just think that she's the better fighter. I think she's the up and coming fighter. I think that this is a matchup made specifically to give her another decent, kind of a long reigning fighter, a win over her. it's just one of those, climb the ladder kind of fights that for me, at least that's what it seems like. That's really the last fight we're gonna go into depth on. We'll round out at the main card. I'll just throw him out there. We got a middleweight between Aliskab Kizriev at a -188 favorite, and he's fighting Mahmoud Muradov at a +146 dog. And then the last fight on this
I
main
will.
card.
Sorry, I
No, go
will
ahead. Go ahead.
talk a little bit about this one. I don't hate Muradov at +146, to be honest. What's the guy's fighting? I don't know how to say that name.
Aliskab Kizriev. No,
Yeah,
that's fair. That's a hard one.
Kizriev. He's 14-0. I think he's had one actual UFC fight, and then before that, Contender Series. I mean, he's a wrestler with good submissions, but he hasn't fought anyone, and he hasn't really impressed me all that much. Muradov, on the other hand, when he first got into the UFC, he did impress me. I think I bet him against Gerard Mearshart, and he ended up losing that fight. But he was wrecking him, and I think he kind of gassed himself, and then Mearshart was able to submit him. Um, I just like it because Muradov has a shit ton of fights, man. Yeah, I think he has over 30 fights in his career. I just think in this matchup, getting him at +140, like, I don't know, just people looking at this fight, just casual MMA fans are like, oh, like I'm getting a guy 14-0 at what is it, like -190, -180.
Yep,
Um,
188.
it just seems like too easy to put him in a parlay here and expect it to pay off. Like he definitely could win this fight, I think, but I just think Muradov's pretty well rounded. And I haven't seen Kizriov's gas tank, and I think that's where if he does have a really good gas tank, is able to take him down a bunch, that it could really affect Muradov. But I think Muradov has some really good stand up. He's a decent wrestler, so I will just say in this fight, I don't hate Muradov at +146.
Yeah, it's one of those experience over everything kind of fights, which I
Yeah,
agree with. I don't hate that value. And like I said, rounding out this main card, we got a welterweight fight. We got Gilbert Urbina at a -210 favorite, and he's fighting Charles Radke at a +162 underdog. And like I said, that's gonna do it for the main card. And that's about it that we're gonna dive into. I mean, the best prelim on this card is Molly Meatball McCann versus Diana Belbita. I mean, that's
there's
bad.
literally no shot that's the best prelim, but it is the featured
Yeah,
prelim.
thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's definitely not the best. It is the featured. So,
Yeah.
like I said, that's gonna do it for our breakdown at least. And a little bit of a rarity here. The Hammer is going to live tweet or at least tweet out maybe Friday or Saturday what his favorite pick of the week is. Like I said, a lot of these picks feel pretty forced, so he's going to do a little bit more research on it. He'll let that be known as the week goes on. So make sure you follow him on X. It's at LineTime Hammer. Um, and I
We'll
think we're
also
gonna,
have it in the graphic
Graphic,
too when it
yeah.
yeah,
comes
we'll have
out.
it on the graphic on Line Time Sports on X at Line Time Sports, like I say. But that's going to do it for the card breakdown. We're going to take a short little break and we'll be back and we'll kind of talk about a little bit of the future bets that DraftKings have up. All right, welcome back. This is, like I said, this is going to be a new segment, a little new thing that we do here. Maybe not consistently because, it's kind of a one off kind of thing, but this is definitely new. It's something that DraftKings has that we've seen that we wanted to talk about. And these are the odds they have, and it's to be champion at the start of 2025. And they have them per weight class. They have a couple of names with their odds, and we think that this is a pretty interesting little thing to dive into. So, Adam and Oscar, I'll let you take it away, and myself and the Hammer will give some insight on how we feel.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I thought these were interesting, and I actually just went back like right now to check, and they're not up now. So I think they probably lock them once they put out the lines each week. So this is stuff that you're going to be able to get like Monday to Wednesday. But essentially, like Rick's was saying, like it you can bet on who's going to be the champion. I think it's December 31st, 2024, right? So I think it's kind of cool just because not only it's like who do you think will be a champion, but like timing wise, it's kind of interesting too. And you get some interesting odds because of that. So um they go by weight class. The heavyweight, the odds on favorite is John Jones at +170. Tom Aspinall is +175. And then Jailton Almeida is +300. Pavlovich is plus 600, and then it kind of just goes down from there. But I thought heavyweight was interesting because John Jones is plus 170, but again, like he has to be champion December 31st, 2024. Do you guys think he'll even be around then? Will he be the champion then? Like, if not, like you might get some value on somebody else. I mean, Aspinall sticks out, obviously, but what do you guys think?
Um, yeah, that it's tough because like John Jones is gonna have one more fight. It's probably gonna be against Stipe, as much as I don't know how much that makes sense, but it's probably gonna that's why I was gonna say it's pretty interesting to see that Stipe isn't even amongst the, plus 600 because, I mean, if Stipe but I guess it makes sense because I think that if either Jones or Stipe wins in any scenario, they're probably both gonna retire. Um, it's just, I don't that one's a little bit confusing to me because we know that Tom Aspinall is the interim heavyweight champion right now. And like I said, I think that they're still going to make the Jones versus Stipe. It just makes the most sense money wise, legacy wise. It's just that's the fight that makes sense for those two guys. So if let's just say play the scenario out that John Jones and Stipe they fight in this year of 2024, and let's say John Jones wins, and let's say he retires. Does that make Tom Aspinall the unanimous champion, the undisputed champion? Period. Even though he didn't, he didn't unify his belts. So that's a little bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if he gives it up, and retires, right? Like, I
Yeah,
mean, he's
is
not the
that gonna
champion, right? So, I mean, the one thing I did see is it does say all bets action. So if it's vacant at the time, I
hmm,
think the book just wins. Um, which
weird?
is obviously probably important for this one and most specifically heavyweight, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because
this is really the division where it's like things could get a little bit tricky because do I think that John Jones or Stipe are going to be active going into 2025? No, I think that they'll get that fight done within this year. It's just will they have a Aspinall probably versus Almeida fight that will make Tom Aspinall the undisputed champ? I don't because I don't know. I don't know. It's a confusing situation all around.
right, yeah. Hammer?
Yeah, so Jones had a pec tear. That's why he had to pull out of his last fight. He's I don't know if he got surgery on it already, or I know he's getting surgery if he hasn't yet. So that obviously makes it a little iffy. Like, will he even be back in time to win that bet? But Dana White did say it will. Him and Stipe will be rebooked in 2024. So I don't know what they. I really don't know what they do there in terms of like, or what are they just going to make that the? I don't know. Like, is does Jones has Jones technically relinquished his belt? Like he's not. So I know
No.
Aspinall. Yeah. So it's tough. Like it's weird that it's not Aspinall next because he's the interim champion. Jones is the unified heavyweight champion. So it really makes no sense in terms of the division. I would say probably it probably will be John Jones because I think he does beat Stipe, and I don't think him and Aspinall will fight before that December of 2024 date. So I do think Jones probably probably will be unless he has to pull out again or Stipe has to pull out again, something like that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't think Stipe is going to beat Jones, and since Aspinall, that I guess it'd just be I'd bet on Jones or Aspinall because
Right.
if the fight with Stipe and Jones doesn't happen, wouldn't Aspinall being the interim champ win, or would the book win
Yeah, that's
the?
what I was saying.
I
Well,
don't
that's
really.
that's where it gets weird because if
That's what
Jones
I'm.
doesn't give it up, right, then it would still be I don't know. It's a weird division. It's kind of a weird one to start
Yeah,
with
I
too,
probably wouldn't
but
touch anything in heavyweight.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I wouldn't touch it personally because you don't know what's happening with the division. But
right.
Yeah, it's the most volatile. It's the most anything can change at any time division for sure.
the
So
murky waters in terms of like actually knowing what the fuck's going on until Jones and Stipe fight.
Yeah.
and knowing how the book is going to play it too. So I would just Yeah, I would stay away from that one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move to light heavy then. So Alex Pereira is the favorite, but he's only 2-1. Magomed Ankalaev is also 2-1. And then Jamal Hill is 3-1. There's a few others in there. Those three kind of made sense to me, but the one that I thought was really interesting was Israel Adesanya was plus 800, which I think is probably like sixth or seventh on the list. But I did think it was intriguing. So if Pereira does stay at this weight and Adesanya's done fighting weight class down, how many more I mean, if you're Dana, if you can get that fight to happen again, but at 205, I don't know. Like it would, I feel
Mm.
like it would make sense to try to do it. It's just so many things that would have to fall in place. And then, of course, Adesanya would have to win the fight as well. Um, but I think it does make sense, like timing wise, too. Which I thought, like, that kind of is like, well, it's 8-1. Like, that almost seems pretty short because he doesn't, you know what I mean? That's a totally different weight class. But I don't know. Those are the ones I thought were interesting. Do you like any of those guys for the value?
I
Um,
kind I
Go
was
ahead,
just gonna
Hammer.
say I kind of like Izzy at plus 800 just because um, I think he's gonna beat Dricus whenever they do fight. I'm assuming that's gonna be next. He's done so, Izzy's done so much at the light heavyweight or at the middleweight division, whereas when he beats Dricus, which I think he's gonna do, I could see Dana as long as Pereira is still champion, I could see Dana letting him fight for the 205 belt to have the trilogy between them. Obviously, there's so much history there. Um, the only thing is, I don't know if Izzy gets it right after the Dricus that fight. You know,
Yeah.
obviously Jamal Hill had to give up his belt due to injury, so he's still in the mix. I think it all depends on if Pereira is still the champion, and I think he very well could be. So I think Izzy, if he beats Dricus, I think that could be his next fight. So for the value at plus 800, I don't hate it. Looking at the rest of the board, um, I really like Jamal Hill. I think he's a great fighter, but if he has to fight Ankalaev, that could be a very bad matchup for him. Just with Ankalaev's wrestling. I think Jamal Hill's better on the feet, but Ankalaev's no slouch on the feet. And Jamal Hill does have like very solid wrestling. I just think Ankalaev's a little bit different type of wrestler that could give him problems. But yeah, I just don't like the value on any of those guys. Like, yeah, it's probably not going to be Adesanya, but for plus 800 and how the UFC works, I don't hate it.
Mhm. So
Yeah,
for whatever that's worth, I think for whatever it's worth, I think Rakic is actually the fourth best odds behind Hill. Which obviously, I
Okay.
mean, that one plays so tightly into when he fights Prohashka.
Blahovic. Is it Prochazka? Yeah, it is Prochazka.
Yeah, at
It's
300.
yeah.
But you know, I mean, he's a favorite in that. So if you think he's going to win that, you know, but that's a timing thing of it too. Like we're gonna get to some of these other divisions where it's like you kind of look at the value and you're like, oh man, kind of like this, but then it's like for them to actually be the champion on that day makes it kind of tough. So, Rick,
Yeah,
sorry,
for
what were you gonna
sure.
say on it?
Um, kind of what you're saying is I don't like the timing necessarily for a lot of these guys. Like, yeah, it is Adesanya at plus 800 has the value, but the timing is not there for me. I think that like they will make DDP and Adesanya at middleweight, and here, like I've already seen that Pereira wants the Jamal Hill fight, so I think that that's the right fight to make at light heavy is Pereira versus Jamal Hill. I like Pereira in that fight, and then after that, it's going to be hard to deny Magomed Ankalaev another title fight. So it's like honestly,
Yeah.
in my head, there's already 2 title fights set up for this year with Alex Pereira. I think Pereira will beat
Hmm.
Hill, and then I think you make Ankalaev, and that's the crazy thing is, like you're saying, if Rakic does beat Prochazka, he's right there too, and I don't think it's fair to Ankalaev to have him fight Rakic for a number 1 contender fight. I feel like we've been there and done that with him. I feel like he rightfully should have won the belt against Blachowicz whenever they fought for the vacant belt. Um, so it's just the timing isn't there for a lot of these guys. I think that, like I said, I think the fight to make right now is Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira, and I think the Pereira will win that fight. And then after that, I think the fight to make, regardless of what happens in that UFC 300 fight, is Ankalaev versus Pereira. And I think that's not the greatest matchup for Pereira. I don't know. I think if I'm going to take either of them, obviously it's anybody could say this. I'm going to take the two guys with the best odds. Pereira and Ankalaev at plus 200. Who would I take? Probably Pereira, just because he currently has the belt. And if something crazy happens, something unforeseen, and he can only fight once this year or something, say like he fights Jamal Hill, wins, and he suffers some kind of injury, he's the champion. He just because he
Exactly.
can't fight for the rest of the year. So I think that the safe money obviously is going to be on Pereira plus 200. I don't hate Izzy at plus 800, like Hammer was saying. If they're going to do a trilogy, it will probably be at light heavy. If Izzy could beat DDP at middleweight, but we're gonna have to see when that fight takes place. If it's
Mhm.
like if that fight
Mhm.
doesn't happen till June, July, I don't see them fitting in a trilogy at light heavy between Izzy and Pereira in before December. So, like I said,
Definitely.
timing definitely screws with a lot of it. So, personally, I would take Pereira plus 200. I feel like that's the casual pick, the any guy could look at this list and say, "Yeah, this guy right here, the champion who's already plus, he's already the champion and he's at plus 200. That's who I'll pick." But I just feel like playing it safe wise, that's what I like. I don't think that Jamal Hill can out kickbox Alex Pereira.
No, I think that
Um,
makes perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, especially too, because like what it's kind of exactly what you're saying though. Like, so Pereira and Ankalaev are the exact same odds, but like you said, or the Hammer is saying, whichever. Like, if Pereira just can't fight or something like that, like he's the champ at the end of the day. Which kind of leads me to think that if Ankalaev and Pereira were to fight, Ankalaev would probably be a favorite based on these odds, right?
he
I don't
should.
know.
I was just gonna say. I mean, he should be. I think Ankalaev's best chance to win a bout is against Pereira. Like, no, I shouldn't say that, but like I think stylistically that's a great matchup for him. I think the only thing I don't know, like Ankalaev, he can't just sit on the shelf and wait for a title fight, right? He beat Johnny Walker. Does that warrant him a title shot? I think he's one of the best in the division, if not the best, but I don't think that win um makes him get the next title shot. So I don't know. Maybe he gets the winner of Rakic and Prohaska, and that's his title. But I just don't know if Ankalaev will fight for a title before then. I don't think he doesn't fight all that often, and I think he's gonna have one more before. So that's the only reason I like Izzy too. I think Pereira beats Jamal Hill in a straight kickboxing fight, which I think that will be. I just think matchup wise, Ankalaev gives Pereira the most problems. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that one.
That's actually that well, it's kind of a good point, right? Like if Ankalaev does have to fight again before getting a title shot, right? Like assuming after Pereira and Jamal Hill fight, like if he has to fight the winner of Rakic Prochka, that screws up his timing pretty bad, right? Like can he
Exactly.
like he's not they're not gonna be able to get that and then what would then be another title shot in, right? You could. It just seems unlikely. So for the
Yeah,
sake of the betting,
he just doesn't turn around that quickly. So that's the
yeah,
thing. Yeah, you don't know. These are really interesting in terms of like you just don't know with some of these fighters
exactly.
if
Yeah.
they're gonna
Well,
even get a shot.
yeah. Well, speaking of Israel Adesanya, really good segue. At middleweight, um, the odds-on favorite is Hamzat at plus 100. Drakus is plus 150, which when I saw or Drakus, pardon me, which I thought was fascinating because I mean, it is kind of the same thing, right? Like, if he like for some reason just can't fight, like he's going to be the champion. However, uh, it he does. I mean, he fights like somewhat frequently, and I can't imagine that if he's. I mean, if you really are going to bet this, I don't see why you wouldn't just bet him when fighting Adesanya or Hamzat because he's. I mean, maybe Adesanya. I don't know what the odds would be in that, but I mean, Hamzat, he would definitely be an underdog too, right?
Yeah,
You would think so.
I think he'd be a slight underdog against Izzy too.
Right. So why leave yourself open to this exposure for an extra like plus 20, plus 30, just for like, and then he also might have to win another fight. I don't know. It just seemed like really bad value. Like I know he's the champ right now, but I don't know, that one seemed kinda crazy to me.
Yeah,
Um
I can almost guarantee he will not be the champion at that deadline. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe I'm just a Dracus hater, but yeah, that's just terrible value to me. I do think it's interesting with Kazmat, man. Like, I think I don't know. He said he was like pretty much guaranteed a title shot after beating Kamaru Usman, which obviously that's a good win, but it's a 170 pounder that took the fight on what less than 2 weeks notice. So I think Dana said he's gonna have to fight again. Seeing plus 100 is it's a little crazy for me though, man, because
Mhm.
Kazmat's really good, but his gas tank, man, it's really not that great. He gassed really hard against Usman. He looked really good in the first round. He was going for the finish, and gassed pretty bad, and just kind of coasted in the second and third round. Was able to edge out that victory, but very close fight. I think it's telling being plus 100 that he probably will get the next title shot. To be honest,
Mhm.
even though
Yeah.
Dana kind of went back on it and whatever, but
Well,
trying to
it is well, so here's but your other option though is if you think Adesanya is gonna get the chance, against Dricus, right? He's 3-1 to be the champ at that point. Now that obviously adds in other things into play. Would he stay in the division and would he keep the belt, whatever it is? And of course he has to win. So that's another thing. And then the only other two, the fourth best odds were Bo
yeah,
Nickel
let's
at
not
plus
do that.
550.
He's not gonna be the champ.
That seemed great. I mean, just like that, there's even if he's good enough to do it, I mean, he's
I
fighting fucking Cody Brundage like in a couple like 2 months. So
I
I
don't
don't
even think I don't even think he'll fight a top 10 opponent by that
right.
deadline.
Yeah.
And he probably that I'm kind of joking when I say that, like that he'll probably just break into the top 10 at that point. But
It
I
seemed
mean,
crazy. It seemed like
I
a
don't.
troll, honestly.
It's
That's
like
crazy
I don't
odds.
understand how that's the odds for him.
He has better odds than Sean Strickland, who is 6-1, who has the
Yeah,
fifth best odds. Which
yeah,
actually, I
he's
mean, I
not gonna
think
be the
that
champion.
I think that there's you could probably make a case for Sean. Now, I think that the case for him though is probably if Drekis wins
Yeah,
and keeps it, and then they would make that rematch, right? Rick, do you
yeah.
think that?
Mm,
No?
I don't know if it'll be immediate. I'm just gonna
uh,
say I don't know if it'll be immediate, but if
Right.
Dricus does beat Adesanya, Strickland will probably fight around that same time as that fight happens. Strickland wins. The only reason I say that is because the fight was so close. Dana White said he thought Strickland won, but at the same time, I don't really think the UFC loves Sean Strickland being a champion. So,
That's
and
a good
like,
point.
not to say, well, like even like Dana, he's like, I'm never telling my fighters what to say. They can think, but like at the same time, I mean, it's it's a business, man. He's probably not the spokesperson you want to be be the champion. So, but like you said, man, if Dricus does win that Adesanya fight, I don't hate Sean at plus 600. But to be completely honest, I don't really like anyone's odds here. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Rick. I just wanted to throw that in there.
um, honestly, I like DDP. I don't think that, like you said, I don't think it's worth it to
Really?
take it plus 150, but I think that he's going to be the champ at the end. I think they're going to make Adesanya and DDP, and I don't think Adesanya's heart is in it anymore. Um, I really don't. I think that DDP is going to win that fight. I think he's a lot more motivated.
What are the odds gonna be on that fight, though? I mean, I guess this would
Closer than
suggest
we would
that
think.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be like DDP is like a plus 120,
yeah.
130,
I was gonna say. I think he'll be
if
like
that.
plus
It
115.
might be a pick 'em. Yeah, it
Yeah,
very well could be a pick 'em, and I do think that DDP is gonna win that fight. It's not the greatest of matchups for him stylistically. I mean, Adesanya is a really good counter striker, like we've always saying, but DDP, I mean, we saw that he has the stamina to go 5 rounds. I mean, he won that fight against Sean Strickland in the later rounds, like, he
Mhm.
except for round 5, he lost round 5, but, I mean, he has the stamina, he went forward on Sean Strickland. He broke the Philly shell. I don't know. I don't know how long I see Adesanya. I mean, he already said after that loss against Strickland, like, I'm going to take a long mental break. I'm going to see, where my heart and my head are at. I don't know how much motivation I mean, he's been there, he's done that through promotion, through sport. He's been champion, he's been top dog. I don't know. I don't know how much he has left in it. And again, it's another one of those situations where they're not going to book this fight until June, July. I would be shocked if like the very earliest it'll be on 300, and 300 is in May. So it's another one of those scenarios where if they beat the shit out of each other, DDP's on the shelf for another, 4 to 6 months. You're already in the winter time. I mean, it's already like, and here's the thing with Strickland, at least. I mean, you're right on the Bo Nickel thing, Hammer. I don't know if he'll fight a top 10 guy by the end of this year. I genuinely don't. They're playing his situation very weird. He's not very active, and he's fighting like you said, Oscar. He's fighting Cody Brundage at 300. So that's going to be interesting to see. It's he's definitely not going to be the champion. That's throwing away money if you're betting him at plus 550. But with Strickland, if we're if Hamzat has another fight before the championship, before a title fight, it's going to be against Strickland. That's the fight to make. Hamzat will dismantle Strickland. That is a bad matchup for Sean Strickland. And like I said, man, it's just the timing wise. That completely gets Strickland out of the conversation, even if DDP wins. That means that Hamzat will be next for DDP. I think Hamzat will beat DDP, but do they get that in by December? I don't know. Hamzat's not a very active fighter. DDP is somewhat active, but if he's already fighting Adesanya and they're not going to make that until the earliest May, I think DDP is the pick here.
That's a good
Yeah.
point, though. That's actually a good point. I think, yeah, if you think that it's not going to get in by the end of the year, and you think you can beat Adesanya, then you're actually getting some value there. So, I think
Yeah, I
that
mean, you
makes
got to
sense.
think like if they make DDP and Adesanya and they want DDP to fight again, that's 3 title fights in 1 year, which is becoming more and more of a rarity as we go on in
Mhm.
the sport. That's asking for a lot out of DDP. A lot of the times these champions are like, let me relax, let me enjoy my time as a champ. I mean, how many of these champs on this list? I mean, we saw Kamaru Usman, he was an active champion. Even Israel Adesanya, he was an active champion. But outside of that, I mean, Volk, he's a pretty active champion. A lot of these guys they kind of like to sit on their hands a little bit and say, you know what, let me enjoy my time. I'll get booked on this event. Give me at least 3 4 months, and then maybe we'll talk about me fighting. But again, with possible damage and all that, we'll see. But I do think DDP is a safe value.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Honestly, you pretty much completely convinced me. I went into this thinking it was terrible value. Now I
Yeah.
totally see it. So, good job. Good job on that one.
But again, but though the price tag of plus 150, it's not like, I'm gonna die to take this, plus 150. Because I mean, we could find like my pick this week, Drew Dober is a plus 150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a fight happening, a co-main on
Yeah.
a bad card on Saturday. So, it's not like, yeah, run and take DDP to be champ by the end of 2025. There's a lot of variables that go into it. I just think like out of this list, that's probably where my mind goes.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah. All right, well, let's move to welterweight. This one I thought was pretty just like, I don't know, pretty standard, I guess. Obviously Leon's plus 100. Shavkat is second best odds, 2 to 1. Bilal is 3 to 1, and then Islam Makhachev is plus 500,
Mm.
which I thought was kind of intriguing. Um, do you, any of the top four? Do any of those suit you? I mean, Leon
Uh,
at plus 100, how many fights is he gonna, I mean, I don't know. If he fights,
he doesn't fight that much. I think he will.
They're gonna be the main event at 300, him and Bilal.
You think?
Yeah,
Um,
I do.
so I think
That's
he'll. I think
speculation.
I think he'll only fight one. I think he'll only
sources myself.
if he wins. I think he'll only fight one more time. This year, to be honest. So that'll
I
go
agree.
be 2 title fights in 2024. I think that's kind of what Leon is. He wants a lot of time to prepare. So I think he probably beats Bilal, but I think that fight's a little closer than a lot of people think. So honestly, I'd probably say either Shavkat at plus 200 or Islam at plus 500. I think Islam easily could get a title shot at welterweight this year. How dominant he's been at lightweight. So I'm just looking straight value. Yeah, I
The
think I like
Shavkat, I think is it might be the best value, I think, out of anyone on this entire page, to be completely honest, because you're never gonna get him. I mean, he's never gonna be a 2 to 1 underdog in, like, any fight, basically,
yeah,
I
right?
agree.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's I mean, it's not obviously, it's not exactly the same as that, but I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think Bilal actually at 3 to 1, I
he
I was
has a
mean,
gonna say
little.
I was gonna say Bilal.
He definitely has
yeah,
some value.
yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I think Bilal has great value. I mean, I don't li I mean, I know that him and Leon fought before, and I know got stopped in the eye poke. Leon has looked so good in his last couple of fights, but I don't like Bilal. I've made that very obvious. I'm not a Bilal fan, but I could definitely see him winning that fight against Leon. It's just my only concern with Bilal is going back to, I mean, if Bilal wins, I don't think the UFC would like Bilal being a champion because he's boring. He has a boring fight style and people don't like him. So I think that if Bilal beats Leon, and like I said, I think that that's going to be the main event of 300 is Leon versus Bilal. I think that, if Bilal were to win, they would make him fight Shavkat before the end of the year, and I think Shavkat would
Yeah,
win that fight. So that goes back to, is Shavkat the real value at +200? I don't love Islam at +500. I think that the lightweight division in and of itself is, he needs to stay there unless, they can make it. I just hate the interim title stuff. I hate, he's going up for one fight. We have to make an interim at 155. It's just like, if Gaethje beats Max Holloway, he's got to get a title fight. They
Mhm.
already said that, like, Dana came out and announced the Charles versus Arman Tsukarian fight. He said this is the number one contender fight. So there's so much happening at 155. I think it would be dumb for Islam to go up to 170. I I mean, I guess, I mean, it's just the double champ thing too. It's so drawn out of proportion. I don't know. I just, maybe it happens. If it does happen though, and say like Islam would have to fight Leon, Islam could probably win that fight. But say Islam, it won't happen this year. But say Islam has to fight Shavkat. Shavkat's going to beat Islam. She's just way too big. Yeah, it's just, it, I think Shavkat could easily survive up at 185. I think you could have conversations that he can go up to 205 and fight. Islam's not beating him. I don't know. For the value, again, it's going to be boring. Probably Leon at +100, just because, like Hammer said, he's probably got one more fight this year, and if he wins, he'll
Yeah.
probably take it through 2024.
yeah.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
a
it's
good
probably gonna be Leon, but
s
Yeah,
that's a good segue. We'll hit this last one, then we'll, take a quick break. Lightweight division is a complete mess. I mean, Islam's -300, but obviously, Charles and Sergey are fighting, Gaethje's fighting, um, and then, of course, like, I think, like, Connor and Michael Chandler were in there on the odds. It's a complete fucking
you
mess.
got to keep Connor in there.
No, serious. I mean, like, it was crazy how high up he was. Yeah, I mean,
Got
it's
to.
it's honestly, there's no chance you're gonna be able to bet that unless you think Islam moves up, vacates his belt, like some, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, why would he do? I don't know. I think it's a
Well,
complete
that's the thing is, like, he wouldn't vacate. It would
exactly
just be an
right.
interim, so he would still be undisputed. So, like,
Yeah,
betting Islam at -300, if you think he's gonna move up, then that's throw $300 on it. Like, if you think he's gonna win against, or does he even have a fight booked right now?
no, he doesn't.
no,
So, I mean, if you think that his next fight is gonna be at welter, then just throw money
that's
on him
you know what?
because
That's
he'll
actually a
be there
good point. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he's -300, but it's as far
Yeah,
as like,
because he
yeah,
won't
I mean,
vacate.
he might not fight, and he's not gonna vacate, right? Because he's gonna try to do double belts. I don't know. You
Yeah,
know
if
what?
anything, they'd make an interim belt. And I kind of think he does. I kind of think he is gonna move up. Depends who he fights next and how dominant. If he's dominant again against whoever he fights, so it won't be Gaethje because he's booked to fight Max. Like if he fights Charles, the winner of Charles and Tarzukian, and he's super dominant, I don't see why he wouldn't move up. To be honest, like I don't love the champs like moving up, but dude, Islam has looked so unbelievable, and I don't like the guy either. But it's hard to deny how fucking just dominant he's looked at lightweight. Especially a guy like Charles that he fought last time, who he just destroyed Charles everywhere. It didn't even look like Charles wanted to be in there. So yeah, I like what you're saying, Rick. As like, if you do think he is going to move up, why not just put 300 on him to win 100 because he won't defend the lightweight belt probably. in that time, and he's still going to be the unified champ. So
Yeah,
And I will say, Connor could have some value just because I think the UFC, if Connor beats Chandler, I think the UFC would very much like to make Islam versus Connor. I mean,
yeah,
that's shades of Connor versus Habib. It's team versus team. It's that is the money fight.
that's
Does Islam
fair.
take that fight? Yeah, probably because it's
he makes
kind
a
of an
shit
easy
ton of
win.
money.
I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
he
and
makes
that's
a
what I was
shit
about
ton
to
of money.
say because
ton of money.
because of Connor, like you would be shocked at how low his odds are to win. So to the point that he actually doesn't have value, even if that was the case, because he would be such a massive underdog against Islam that you would just, if you think that's going to happen, you just bet that fight. You don't have to worry about timing or anything like that. So, okay. Featherweight division. I only have three on here. Volk's plus 125, Ilya Tapuria's plus 240, and Aljamain is actually plus 550, which I thought was intriguing.
How is Aljamain even on? His next fight's at featherweight. Sorry, I thought there was just bantamweight. My bad. I was like,
No,
he's
this,
literally okay.
well,
I
That's
that's,
still
featherweight.
well,
agree.
you know what?
How's he on it?
Not
Didn't I?
to,
No, I saw. That's what I was confused about. I saw Aljo at +3. I know we'll talk about this. I saw him his odds at bantamweight, which we'll get to that later. I'm
well, let's
sorry. I
just,
don't.
no, let's talk about it
That
now
makes
because
no
I think that's
sense.
crazy, to be honest with you. Like the odds difference in that, like I don't really understand that. Does that make any sense to you guys?
No, I guess he won't. He's said he's moving up to unless he gets absolutely demolished by Calvin Cater at 145, and he goes, "Fuck this! This was a horrible idea." But even if that dude, he like said it's not just a one-off at 145. Like
Mhm.
that is his new division. He's trying to become champ at 145. So it makes no sense that his odds are even listed at bantamweight. Um, yeah, that I just was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me either.
No,
Rick, do
not
you
at
like
all.
either? I mean, this one is pretty
Straightforward.
straightforward. Yeah.
I just the thing with especially Aljamain at plus 550, it confuses me. Like, if Calvin Cater wins, does that mean Calvin Cater's gonna get a title fight? I mean, I don't know. I said it a couple episodes ago. I'm kind of afraid that Tapuria wins this fight against Volk. Um, and it goes
Yeah.
back to it's hard for me to bet these guys after they get knocked out. And like Volk got knocked out pretty bad that with that head kick against Islam. And I mean, one of the most like humanizing chilling things with these fighters is when they release the footage from uh their locker room after the fight, and it's like Volk was just like walking around in disbelief, like what the hell just happened. Like, I don't know, that kind of stuff scares me a little bit. And Ilya Tapuria is like crazy good. Like, he is insanely talented. He's a dangerous fella, so I don't hate that at plus 240. It's just, again, I mean, that fight is what, 2 weeks out, maybe 3 weeks out. That's the next big numbered pay-per-view is
Twenty
Volk
two
and
ninety eight. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, whoever wins that fight is definitely going to be fighting again this year. It's
Right.
just when you look at that division outside, like I don't know why Aljamain is third in odds. Because
He
they're
wasn't, so
obviously
I will say, I don't think he was third. I think that, Movsar Evloev was third, actually.
Okay.
that's
But I
I
just wanted
I
to throw Aljo on there because I thought it was interesting. But
dude,
Yeah.
if Max beats Gaethje, then you
yeah,
do you make Max?
Max was, I think, ahead of Aljo too. I think Aljo was fifth.
I
But I
don't
mean, would
I
that be
don't
Max and Volk's fourth fight, fifth fight?
yeah, that's why it's
Yeah.
like the only way I think Max gets it
Is if Ilya wins. But
if
if
it
Ilya
really
wins, I
wins.
think they do an immediate rematch with Volk because he was a champ or
Yeah.
so. I don't know. That's a I think that it's probably going to be one of Volk or Taporia because, like I said, if Volk loses, they probably do a rematch if he wants it, unless he wants to take some time away. I think the value is Taporia plus 240.
You know that
The safe is
motherfucker.
Volk.
You know that motherfucker isn't taking any time
I know
off.
he's crazy. He is a absolute savage. So I do think that it will probably be Volk. I'm just sick and tired of giving the favorite Taporia plus 240. That's one I like.
Yeah, I wanna sit here and say there's, like, value on, Aljamain because I could see him beating Cater. I just don't like, I don't think his wrestling is gonna translate to the featherweight division, against those top tier guys. I think he can beat a lot of guys in the top 10. Um, not sure if Taporia and Volk are, two of the guys he can beat, I mean, his stand-up's not horrible. It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, but it's not good.
It's not great.
Especially like Volk versus Aljamain kickboxing. That would be
Yeah, I mean,
slaughter.
he has to like it's he has to wrestle immediately, and I think he can take people like Volk and Topuria down. It's the problem is keeping them there. It's a little different because he's really good at controlling fights. Taking your back. It's just I don't think he's able to take these top tier guys down multiple times, keep them there round after round, and that's what he's going to have to do against these top guys. Even Cater, man, he's not a small 145er.
Mhm.
Has obviously amazing boxing. Uh, not and he doesn't have bad takedown defense. So yeah, I can't advise betting Aljo at plus 550, even though I am a fan of him. I don't I don't think there's really much value there. I don't know. Have they released? What are the odds for Volk and Taporia in this fight that's coming up between them?
That's a good question here. I have it in front of me. Let me look.
I just want to.
It says Volk minus 142, Taporia is plus 120.
Yeah, I mean, I want. It's tough, man. I don't like if you're getting Taporia at plus 240. I don't hate it, but like Matt said, if he wins,
I think that's beating Volk twice at plus
if
240.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If he
yeah.
if he if he wins, they easily could give Volk the immediate title shot
But
because he probably deserves it. Or
and if he
immediate
wins,
rematch.
Topuria will be the favorite in the second fight.
Yeah,
If he's on the plus 120 here in the first fight, if he beats Volk, he'll be the favorite. So I mean, you are
yeah,
getting the
or
value at plus 240.
Yeah.
yeah, but he has to beat someone like Volk twice. Like
Yeah, I know.
I don't care if he's the favorite in the second fight. Like that's still not an easy task. So I don't think there's really any value on anyone here, to be
I didn't really
honest.
think so either. It seems it's like it's just kind of who you like, which I don't know, not a ton of value here. But bantamweight though, this is all in order because I thought that there were a lot of different ways you could take it. So
A
for
lot
all
of
the
names.
listeners, there's a lot of names. So Sean O'Malley's obviously favored plus 150. Marab is plus 250. Umar Nurmagomedov plus 275. Aljo is plus 350, which we kind of touched on already. Corey Sandhagen's 5-1. Cejudo is 6-1. Cheeto is 10-1, as well as Song Yadong. Um,
Cheetah should be like 40.
well, that's the thing. If you're in the camp that Cheeto can beat Sean, the books are not going to agree with you too much. Because here's the thing: the thing is with this bet, even if he does, then he's going to have to win again,
That's the
and
thing. I was gonna
it's
say I'm not completely rolling out him beating Sean again. It's just I don't think he beats Marab. I don't think he beats Umar. I don't know why Aljo's there, but
yeah.
I don't think he beats Aljo if they were to fight. I don't think he beats Sandhagen. Uh I don't think he beats Cejudo. He already lost to Song Yadong, even though that fight was very close and a little bit controversial. So that's why I don't like him. Like even if he wins this fight, I don't think he wins his next one. Marab at plus 250. It's interesting because I think stylistically against Cejudo, this won't be an easy fight that they have coming up. Especially because it's only 3 rounds, I believe. I don't think they made that a 5 rounder, even though I think Barab said he did want 5 rounds. I'm pretty sure it is going to be 3 rounds. Um, I mean, I'm not gonna. I kind of like Umar at plus 275. The problem is no one in the top 10 really wants to fight him. So I don't know if he can like solidify himself getting a title shot with fighting like the lower level guys he's fighting, and it's not his fault. It's just a lot of guys don't want to fight him. And then what I think like could happen is I know Sandhagen's coming back from that injury. He just had surgery. Umar doesn't have a fight lined up. I don't believe. Um, I think they can make that fight. I think Sandhagen is as game as they come, and I think he already accepted Umar at one time, and then something happened with they got pulled out. Someone pulled out. I could be wrong, but I think out of like the top five, I think Sandhagen could take that fight, and stylistically, probably not the best matchup for him, even though Sandhagen's really damn good. And if he does beat Sandhagen, that's his route to, getting that title shot. And I think Sandhagen would take that fight because he has a set of nuts on him. But yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna tell like my favorite pick value wise, uh, dude, Yon plus 2,500.
That
A
was gonna
little
be
in,
my pick.
it's a little,
Yeah, that's why I wanted to put that on there.
it's a little enticing. Not
I
gonna
like Yana
lie.
plus 2,500. Here's the thing: is like Song Yadong's plus 1,000. If Yan beats Song Yadong, which I think he will, there's a little bit of storyline between Sean O'Malley and Peter Yan,
Yeah,
and Peter Yan, I think, beat Sean O'Malley in that first fight.
I
So,
think most fans would agree with you.
like, I don't know why they're giving us him at plus 2,500. I think that's ridiculous value. I think
Yeah,
that's like crazy good value.
I think it's because obviously what his last uh what is it his last three he's lost two or is it his last four he's
I
lost
think
three I don't know.
two.
Yeah, so obviously he's on a little skid, but if you watch those fights, like they're obviously he got dominated by.
I was gonna say
Oh
the
no,
only one he
he
really lost was Marab.
three of four. I mean, he got dominated by Marab, then
Yeah,
loses really close fights to Aljo. Could have went either way, and then Sean O'Malley, which I think most
exactly.
people thought he won. So I mean, I think Jan's tough to ignore at plus 2,500. But other than that, if I'm gonna go like someone uh with like worse odds, but I still think it happened. I think Umar's really fucking good, man. And if he finally gets some of those top guys, I think he could break through and get a title shot. But that's all I
Okay,
have on that.
let's do flyweight and let's do it in 20 seconds. Pantoja plus 120, Brandon Moreno plus 250, Amir Albazi 4-1, Manel Cape plus 650, and Makayev 8-1. Who's your favorite?
Give
Moreno.
give me. I was just gonna say that too, but
All right, let's move on.
I won.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
No. I was literally gonna do what you did and just go Moreno next.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they don't have my boy Tatsu Tyro on there, huh?
They did. I think he's right behind Makayev, I
Makayev.
believe. Yeah.
That's just another timing thing. I don't think he'll be able
I
Yeah,
to.
think that's yeah.
he won't get a title
He
shot
needs 2
there,
or 3
but
more wins, but he could be
he
for
will.
2026.
Yeah.
I think he will be a champion. Not that early, just because I don't think he'll have enough fights against high level guys. But yeah, yeah. Give me Brandon Moreno. I would like to say Manel Cave, but he can't fucking make weight. He's an idiot, so I'm not gonna put him on. Plus,
Sweet. Easy. All right, let's move to the women. Um,
Woo!
yeah, this is one that we this is what we had to talk about. Women's bantamweight. So obviously the favorite right now is Raquel Pennington. Juliana Pena is plus 250. And then Kayla Harrison 3-1. Vieira, is that it? 5 to
yeah,
1.
killing
Hetland.
her.
Yes. And then Amanda Nunes 5 to 1 and Valentina Shevchenko 7 plus 750.
I like Nunes.
Any takers? Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Nunes here. We were talking about it a little bit before we started up, and I will say that I hate both Pennington and Pena being the favorites. That is terrible. I could see Kayla Harrison at plus 300, but it's we talked about this again. I think last week. It's going to be really hard for her to consistently cut down to 135. I don't know how much I see that happening. And if Amanda Nunes does say, "Okay, I'm back," first of all, I think it will have to be a Juliana Pena beats Raquel Pennington. I don't think Amanda Nunes is gonna come back for Raquel Pennington. That just doesn't make sense. Or B, Kayla Harrison is waiting there for a title shot. That's my problem with Nunes is she probably has to wait for a fight that she really likes. Like maybe, like I said, the trilogy with Pena. If Pena beats Pennington, she would definitely come back for Kayla Harrison. I just don't know if that happens by 2024, December 2024. But I think the value is definitely there for Amanda. I mean, she's very cryptic in her that little talk she did, I think, with Megan Levy after 297 when she was there for the Pennington and the Myra Buena Silva fight, and it just seemed like she was itching to come back. Like retirement wasn't her kind of thing. So if she comes back, she's getting a title fight and she'll win that title fight. That's my read.
Mr.
Yeah,
Hammer?
I mean, I have to agree with you. I just hard to ignore those odds. Like, obviously, she's plus 500 because she's retired right now. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty like, but like, it's still like kind of crazy. Like, obviously, she was still fighting the division. She'd be fucking minus 400 at least, probably. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance she comes back. I just that top of the division isn't that good. Kayla Harrison, I gotta see her make weight a couple times and see how her body reacts to that 135-pound cut. I mean, and then like Kayla Harrison, obviously great wrestling, really good controlling. Yeah, she could get you to the ground and is able to just kind of smash you and keep you there. But I mean, she lost in the PFL to a girl that's not bad. She's like 23-4, Larissa Pacheco. So I don't know. I just don't know how, like, she's still really good. I just don't know if some of these girls in the UFC can stuff her takedowns, which they might be able to. I don't love her. I mean, at plus 300, if her odds were like a little better, plus six, plus like plus five, plus 600, maybe I'd like her. But I don't know. I kind of just with how like weak the division is, and Valentina obviously losing to Grasso and then being a split draw on the second one. If Amanda Nunes doesn't come back, I don't see why Shevchenko wouldn't try to move up and get that belt. So her at plus 750, I don't hate those odds either. Even though I don't think Valentina is necessarily the same fighter as she's been in the past, it seems like she's starting to slow down a little bit. Her skills aren't as sharp as they've been on just that top of the division. I don't think it's all that good. So I think she definitely has a chance if she decides to move up, and I think she could. But yeah,
Well, with that being said, let's go to the flyweight division. Kept this one pretty short and sweet. Grasso. Well, actually, you know what? Real quickly on bantamweight, it's pretty telling that so Pennington is plus 200. Those are the highest odds out of any champion outside of Alex Pereira, but obviously it's a pretty different circumstance at light
yeah,
heavyweight. So I think that's pretty telling that what the
yeah.
books how the books feel about Pennington being the champion for an extended period of time.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's go to flyweights. Alexa Grasso plus 150, and then Aaron Blanchfield is plus 210. Manon Farrow plus 300, and then Shevchenko in this division is plus 350. Those are the top four.
I like
Oh,
Blanchfield. I really
Blanchfield,
yeah.
like Aaron Blanchfield here. Yeah.
finally the time.
Yeah. I
She's
just
good.
Grasso isn't booked yet, right?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. No.
And Blanchfield and Furo, they're fighting at Atlantic City, which is in March, I
They are.
believe.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, could they make Grasso and Shevchenko? I guess, but I mean, that fight has happened twice in a row already. I don't know if we're gonna have another Brandon Moreno and
Biggie,
what's
little,
Figgy
yeah,
situation where that's just continuously the title fight that happens. I mean, could it? Sure. Um, the last one was a draw, right, between
yeah.
Grasso and
That's
Shevchenko.
right.
So
Split draw.
I it just maybe there's value, but like either way, if they do book Grasso and Shevchenko, um, or is Grass? No. Sorry, I thought Grasso was fighting Whaley, but Whaley's fighting Yan. We'll get on to that. But
Mhm.
if they make Grasso and Shevchenko, either way, they're gonna have to fight the winner of Blanchfield and Furo by the end of 2024. Like, that fight will happen. Whoever wins Blanchfield and Furo, they'll have a title fight this year. And I just think that Blanchfield's style of fighting is super dominant, especially for that division. She fits right in, man. She's such a good grappler. I think that honestly though, for that fight between Blanchfield and Furo is pretty close. If Furo wins, I kind of like her plus 300, that value. She's super long, tall, big for that division. Super talented. I think the Blanchfield at plus 210, that's what my value is.
Yeah, I'm just gonna agree with you because I like Erin Blanchfield a lot. I think her style is tough for a lot of people in that division. Yeah, plus 210. Give me Erin Blanchfield as well.
This one seems like the odds make the most sense, like at any division, right? Where it's like, well, Cross is plus 150, and then Blanchfield and Fro are fighting. So it's like, well, okay, then they're going to get, you know what I mean? Like it all kind of lines up pretty well. It doesn't seem like there's tons of value unless you just know who's going to be the champion, right? Unless you're
Well,
basically just betting on who's going to be. You know
I
what I
think this
mean?
is the
Like,
one women's division that has some sort of discrepancy between themselves and the top. Like, there's actually like more than 3 or 4 girls that they could make the claim that, okay, I deserve
mhm.
a title fight or I can be a champion. Like, I mean, you look at the bantamweight list now that Kayla Harrison, who just got signed, is in there. Amanda Nunes, who is literally retired. Those are 2 of your top 5. Like,
Yeah,
that's not good, right? So I think
yeah,
that like
exactly.
that's one division, and it's like Valentina Shevchenko was the queen of that division for such a long time. I won't say king, the queen of that division for such a long time, and then Grasso beat her. So, I mean, fresh blood, and like I said, with that Blanchfield and Ferrero fight, both of those girls are super young. I think Blanchfield's like 22, 23. Um, that's the division to look out for, and I think that if Blanchfield's given the chance in this year, she'll probably keep her belt for a decently long time.
Mhm. Think it makes a lot of sense. All right, let's round it out. Women's
Tatiana
strawweight.
Tatiana Suarez.
That's okay. All right. Well,
There it
Um,
Whaley.
is.
dude, I don't. I think so.
Should I say the
Uh,
odds first before you explain?
yeah, yeah. Give me the odds. It doesn't matter because she's getting the champion. But yeah, give
Well,
me
you
the
get
odds.
decent value then. Whaley is minus 125. Tatiana Suarez is plus 140. Yan Janan, is that how you say it? Plus
Yeah,
350.
that's pretty
I,
good.
I also put on Lupa Godinez, not entirely because I love her.
I call her Jan Xanax because I can't say her last name.
That's pretty close too.
Thanks.
I put in Lupe Godinez not because I just because I love her, but also because she fights 50 times a year. So you know,
She does.
if she just won 1,000 times in a row, who knows? But I don't think that's a very good bet. Go ahead, Hammer.
So Jan and Whaley are fighting. Jan has pretty solid stand up, but so I think she has a chance to beat Whaley. I mean, Whaley very good stand up as well. But when either of these women fight Tatiana Suarez, I think they're gonna get absolutely ragdolled, just like she's done to everyone else in the division. She'd already be a champion by now if injuries haven't, put a little, like she's been injured a lot, so that's why. I mean, what is she? She's 10-0. She's every fight she's been in, she just looks. Her wrestling is unbelievable. I don't know what I don't know if she was on Olympic team, world team, or whatever, but she's just unbelievable. Her control is so good. I think Whaley has a lot better takedown defense than Jan. Like I think Jan's takedown defense is really horrible. I mean, she got destroyed by Carla Esparza, who's a good wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but not even close to the world that Tatiana Suarez is in. So I mean, if Whaley loses to Jan, I think that is like the easiest money in the world. Tatiana Suarez is going to absolutely destroy her. But even if Whaley wins, which I think she does, um, I don't see her being able to stop Tatiana's wrestling. And yeah, I think Tatiana Suarez just runs through everyone in that division for as long as she wants to, unless she gets hurt again or something like that. But at plus 140, I actually might put like $500 on this. I'm not kidding. Like I think this is easy money, but we'll see. Anything could happen.
Rick, do you agree?
Um, yes and no. I think that Tatiana, I do think Tatiana is the most skilled in that weight class. I think that like Hammer was saying, she should already be a champion if it wasn't for injuries. But speaking of injuries, I'm pretty sure she just pulled out of a fight recently again because of injury. But that could kind of benefit her in
Yeah,
this scenario.
when the belt get hurt,
Yeah, that
cash
well,
cash it.
and her pulling out of this fight. I mean, probably is she good enough to get the next title fight? Yes, for sure. Will she? Probably should. Um, I do think that Wei Lee is going to beat Jan Xanax, as Hammer would say. Um, I, but here's the thing, man. I just watched that Wei Lee and Joanna fight back recently, and I've been kind of on a Wei Lee hype train. I mean, that was the best women's fight of all time. That was
Yeah,
one
it
of the best
was
fights of all.
100%.
That was such a good fight, and the fight would look nothing like that between her and Tatiana Suarez. I will just say it will be Tatiana Suarez taking it to the ground and probably submitting her decently early. Um, so I think the value is there. What did you say? Wei Li was minus 125. Um,
Yeah.
so is there value there? No, not really at all.
But
The
like
fact,
Whaley
well,
is the best stand-up fighter in the division, and like
yeah, for sure.
she's definitely a lot better than Tatiana is on the feet. I'm not.
It's just if that matchup happens and Tatiana
Yeah,
gets to the ground once, I
yeah,
consider that fight pretty much over.
yeah, exactly. That's where I'm coming from. But
So that's why Tatiana, who isn't the champion and might even need one more fight before fighting for the belt, coming in at plus 140, I think that's super telling.
yeah,
She has better odds than Jan Zianon, who's literally fighting for the belt at UFC 300.
yeah.
Like, that's telling.
Yeah. Not as bad as
I
Not as bad as Cheeto Vera, but
Well, Cheeto is a different scenario here. I'm not betting on a chip.
Cheetah should be a
It's
Cheetah
not
should be
happening.
Cheetah should be 100 to 1. That's
Yeah.
just my mind.
No disrespect to Cheetah, but he's not gonna have the
Nah,
belt at the end
nah.
of this year.
A little
If
bit
he
of
beats
dis
Sean,
a
a
little
little
bit of
bit, a little bit,
just a little bit of
just a
disrespect,
little
but
bit, because I mean, if Cheeto wins, he's gonna fight Marab, and Marab will just destroy him.
yeah, but
all right,
yeah,
boys.
I
Well,
mean,
hey, go ahead.
it, I was just gonna say like I don't want to downplay Whaley's skills because she is great. Just looking at this like matchup wise, there's no one in that division that I think can stop her wrestling. So
I
that's
agree.
where I'm at with it. If she gets hurt with a long term injury before she gets the title shot, then you're
That's the
fucked.
bullet.
That's
Yeah.
the bullet. But I'm willing to take that risk because I don't see her losing after she gets the belt. So yeah, that was all I was gonna say on that. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks for
Talking about that.
that's we made it through all of them. Like I said, you can find these on DraftKings. They do seem to lock towards the end of the weeks once the lines for the cards themselves come out. But I've seen these a couple of times. I think I don't know if we talked about them on the pod or if we just talked about them us three, but
I think
um
maybe near the New Year's, we might have brought it up a little bit.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I never remember seeing these before. So I don't know if they're new or I just wasn't looking for them because they're only like
I think
earlier on in the week. I don't know.
I think they're pretty new. They caught my eye like a few weeks ago, and I was like, I feel like I've seen this before. But
Yeah. Well, and I think that's if they are new, it's interesting. I feel like anytime books bring out something new like that, you never know if they're kind of maybe underestimating some of the value in certain spots. So I think it's
for
worth
sure,
bringing up. But all right, Rick, you want to take us home?
Yeah, well, everybody, thank you again for listening as always. We'll be back. Like we said, we apologize for the inconvenience. Don't blame us. Blame Dana White. Blame Sean Shelby. We didn't make this card. Like we said, there wasn't a ton to talk about. With the fights in general. We went over the 4 that we liked. I gave you my best pick, which is gonna be Drew Dober money line, the Hammer, and both LineTime Sports will be tweeting out what the Hammer's favorite pick is this week, closer to Friday, Saturday, so keep your eyes open for that. And like always, we'll be back next week. We'll go over the fights that we talked about or maybe some interesting fights that went down this weekend at UFC Vegas 85, and then we'll talk about the fights that are going down next week. I'm a little bit fuzzy on what the main event is. I think it's Jack Hermanson Joe Pyfer, I think. Um,
Jesus Christ.
yeah,
No,
That's
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. That sounds.
that's correct.
I like it.
okay.
No,
I,
I'm joking, but
uh,
we'll see.
only half joking here, but again,
Yeah.
we'll be back next week. We'll recap. We'll talk about those fights. We'll give you our favorite picks. So thanks again for listening, as always. We'll see you guys next week.
See you, boys.